Okay, so it's my great pleasure to introduce to you today's speaker now. Now, we all need goals to help us succeed in business. Who would agree with that statement? Yeah. But when the going gets tough, it can be hard to stick to your goal, can't it? So our speaker today is going to tell us all about her own experience of pursuing an ambitious goal. Shelley Dunstone leads a double life. By day, she runs a consulting business, Legal Circles, in which she helps lawyers to achieve their business and career goals. And by night, swapping her suit for sweet sequins, she becomes a cabaret artiste. Sounds interesting. You might have seen the posters for her fringe shows. Combining stories and songs, she has created and performed shows such as The Confessions of a Wannabe Bond Girl, Unbreak My Heart, and Adventures with a Brazilian. Oh, Shelley. Shelley holds a qualification in law, marketing and applied finance, and she's going to speak on the topic of From Glimmer to Gold, so please welcome Shelley Dunstone.
I couldn't move or speak, but through a fog I began to become aware of lights and voices. It's too soon to know if you'll have a stroke. Note to self, don't have a stroke. This was a successful operation. We were able to repair this woman's mitral valve. Sounds good. They dragged the tube out of my throat, shoved a pillow into my arms, hauled me into a sitting position and commanded me to cough. And as I sat there reeling from the pain, it gradually dawned on me that I was alive. At the age of 54, I had just had open heart surgery. Do you have a bold vision for your business, and have you set goals in place to achieve it? You know, this year's been extraordinarily difficult, hasn't it? And a lot of businesses have pivoted towards alternative sources of revenue. And that's all good, extremely understandable. You've got to have cash to survive. But what does it mean to pivot? It means to turn on the spot so that you're facing in a different direction. Is that the direction you want your business now to travel in, or do you need to steer it back to the original one? Because the longer you travel this way, the further away you're going to get from this direction. And is it time to do some longer range planning, to revisit your competitive strategy? Because probably a lot of the assumptions on which your strategy is based have changed now. Or is there something in your life that you want to achieve? You could focus on that, because the story that I'm going to share with you today is about a life goal that I set for myself. One that at first seemed extremely implausible. Well, actually, it seemed impossible. Flashback to a couple of years before my heart surgery. I went with my husband and a couple of friends to the Barossa Valley to see the Diana Krall concert. Diana Krall is a beautiful pianist and singer, and it was there that I bought Diana Krall's DVD of her concert in Rio de Janeiro. And the following weekend, I took the cellophane off the box, cracked it open and slid the disc into the machine, settled back on the couch to watch. The film starts with beautiful footage of Rio, all set to a bossa nova soundtrack. Diana drifting through the rainforest, Diana wandering along the beach, and then cut to the concert. The theatre is set up cabaret style with little round tables, cocktails, candles, all very romantic. Diana enters the stage. She takes her place at the grand piano amongst her jazz band alongside the big orchestra. She sings a few jazz standards and the audience applauds politely. Then she starts the next song, and this time she's singing in Brazilian Portuguese. Well, by the time she reaches the end of the fourth line, the whole place erupts. The roof just about lifts off. The people are applauding wildly because she's singing in their language and they are loving it. At that point, I sat up on the couch and I said, I want what she's having. Yes, I wanted to sing their music in their country, in their language. I wanted my own concert in Rio. And then I took a reality check. I'd never been to Brazil. I didn't know anybody there, and I didn't speak the language. I was just a hobby singer. You know, growing up, I wasn't a drama type. I suffered terrible stage fright. I never did anything like public speaking, debating, acting. I avoided all of those things. But in middle age, I'd started singing in amateur rock bands. A lawyer friend got me into it. And I'd recently discovered an open mic night for cabaret. It was at La Boheme. It used to be opposite Market in Broad Street. And once a month you could go along, give the pianist your song, get up on stage, the lights went down, and your performance was completely impromptu. I was accruing stage time at the rate of 3 minutes per month. And now I had this sudden vision of myself performing on stage in Rio de Janeiro. You're dreaming. You know, that was just a crazy glimpse of something, and I dismissed it. But the dream didn't go away. It kept coming back once in a while. And occasionally, I mentioned it to people I trusted. I was trying to convince myself, you know, if you don't believe that a thing's possible, you're going to have trouble doing it. And a business mentor challenged me. But still, I had no idea how would I even start. And then I realised that there was something wrong with my heart. I was beginning to have palpitations. And I was told that I had what's termed a mitral valve prolapse. The mitral valve controls the blood flow between the two chambers on the left side of the heart. And if the blood starts to flow back the wrong way, the heart starts to swell and, well, eventually you die. I was told I would need open heart surgery. Well, the day that I went to visit my surgeon to meet him at his office, he leaned across the table to me and he said, I must inform you of the risks of this operation. There are 3 main ones, the 3 big ones: heart attack, stroke, and death. Well, I brought out my diary and I said, well, what day shall we do it? Because what choice do you have? Without the operation, I was going to die anyway. But as you can imagine, when I woke up and realised I was alive, I felt extraordinarily pleased. And it takes a long time to recover from open heart surgery, 2 or 3 months. I had a lot of time to think. I thought about how lucky I was to have a second chance at life, how we're not here forever and one day it will be too late, and that if I was going to live, well, I should really live. I should do the things that I want to do. We all know this, right? It would have been nice to have that revelation without the operation. But, you know, I still had no idea where to even start. Then I went to the 3-month consultation with my cardiologist, and he ordered some tests and sat me down. He looked up at me and he said, everything is working as it should. You are well. Oh, I felt so relieved, but I had questions. I said, doctor, can I go back to work? Yes, you can go back to work. Can I start lifting weights in the gym? Yes, that stern is mended now. Well, doctor, is there anything I can't do? No, there's nothing you can't do. He was ready for the next patient, and it was my cue to leave his office. But as I left the clinic, I decided to take him literally. There was nothing I could not do. Well, now I had 2 things. I had a big, hairy, audacious goal to have a concert in Rio, and a medical opinion that I could do anything. I just needed a plan of action. Now, I still had no idea how to do it, but I now had this extra ingredient, which was commitment. Now, this goal was no longer optional. I was going to make it happen. So I started thinking, well, what would you need? What would be the ingredients of this challenge? Well, you'd need a venue, musicians, and an audience. I've been putting on my own shows in Adelaide. Perhaps I could organise those things in Rio. I decided to start with musicians, and being the sensible and conservative person that I am, I went straight to Facebook. And I realised that I did know someone in Brazil because I was a member of the Bossa Nova fan club page. Now I must explain Bossa Nova. It's sort of Brazilian jazz from the 1960s, and the song that's most famous, the one that you probably know, is The Girl from Ipanema by Tom Jobim. And it sort of goes, tall and tan and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes, one she passes goes, ah. When she walks, she's like a samba that swings so cool and sways so gentle, and when she passes, each one she passes goes, ah. I'm sure you've heard that song at some stage in your life, if only in an elevator. Well, I decided to ask this guy who had friended me through the Bossa Nova Facebook page. He said he was a guitarist in the Rio de Janeiro region. So bingo, I wrote to him. I said, hello, I would like to have a concert in Rio de Janeiro. I wondered if you would accompany me. And I waited for his response. The next day the reply came and he said, no. He said no because he didn't play the particular songs that I've mentioned. He played different composers and it didn't seem to be a match. But he said, I have a friend who would be perfect for you. I suggest his name's Aeneas Rush, and I suggest you look him up on YouTube. Now, isn't this how social media works? On the 6 degrees of separation, someone who knows someone who knows someone. So I looked him up. There were 2 videos, neither of them bossa nova, they were his own compositions. But look, he seemed to play guitar quite well, he had a nice voice. So I asked him if he'd like to accompany me, and he said yes. Well, good, but how do you move the project on from there? I started thinking about logistics. What if I could set up a show, but you know, what if the music wasn't any good? What if we didn't get along? Or what if he didn't even turn up? I was going to have echo over my face, and it was going to be expensive air. I decided to apply some creative thinking to this challenge, and I thought about my various options. And then I thought, well, what if I turned the idea on its head? I could invite my Brazilian Facebook friend to come to Australia to rehearse and perform with me. At least then we'd find out if it's going to work. So he said, yes, I'd love to come. Big leap of faith for him. And I set up a show and travel arrangements. And then I cancelled him because it turned out he needed a special working visa if he was going to perform in Australia. Eventually it took 9 months to get that visa. And when I started telling people we've got the visa and my friend is coming from Brazil, then the doubters started coming out of the woodwork. I never really thought you'd get it. Met him on Facebook, did you? Is he really who he says he is? Well, you can imagine waiting at Adelaide Airport for my friend to arrive. I was feeling a little bit nervous. Did he actually get on the plane? Would the visa work? Would we get along? I waited for an hour and a half. And then a man appeared with a black fedora on his head and a guitar on his back. I recognised him straight away and I ran towards him with my sign. We went to the car park, we got to my car, and he tried to climb into the driver's seat. And that was the first good laugh we had together. I said, are you going to drive? As we drove towards the city, I realised I have to speak. Now, whilst all of this has been happening, some other things going on in the background. Of course, I've been working on my singing. And also because I was committed to this goal, I felt I was attuned to the opportunities. I'd found people to help me with the rhythm, with the music. And I've even found a Brazilian Portuguese language class 5 minutes from my home. It was uncanny, the coincidences that occurred, because I was committed and attuned to the opportunities. And by the time Anais arrived in Adelaide, I'd been learning the language for about 1 year on Saturday mornings. So it wasn't actually conversational. And as I drove, I realised, this is where the rubber hits the road. I have to speak, and I'm going to make lots of mistakes, but it's better than driving in silence. Well, we managed to develop a shared vocabulary, enough to allow us to rehearse. And a week later, we were performing in the Adelaide Fringe Festival. The shows went pretty well, and as a result of that, I felt quite confident about continuing our partnership. And Anais invited me to come to his town in Brazil, where he could set up some shows for us to perform. So we did that and had a wonderful time in his little town, Jaraguá do Sul, in the south of Brazil. Also on this trip, my husband and I went to Rio de Janeiro. This was our reconnoitre trip because we needed to find a venue for the show. A muso friend in Adelaide had mentioned to me that there was a jazz bar in Rio run by an Australian guy. So I contacted him by email, sent him a video, and we went to the venue because we needed to speak to him in person. And we flew into Rio, checked into the hotel, got into a taxi, drove for about half an hour, and pulled up in a very lonely lane. Went into the bar, and I announced us to the woman who was on reception there. And she said, I'm sorry, we've given your table away. You needed to be here by 9 o'clock, and it's now 9:10. Fortunately, she managed to squeeze us in, and we were soon enjoying the beautiful atmosphere and music. And in the break, I spoke to the proprietor and explained that we wanted to perform in his venue. He said, that'll be great, that'll be good, we'll put you on the program. Yes, look, email me when you get home and we'll set it up. And give my best regards to my mate in Australia. And he reiterated that as we left. There was a line of taxis outside the door, and he went straight from the club to taxi for safety reasons. Well, arriving back home in Australia, I emailed him and proposed approximate dates. Didn't hear anything, so I rang up, spoke to him again, and he said, yes, that'll be great, that'll be good, yes. In fact, email me on my private email address. So I did that and sent a new video from the show we'd done in Jaraguá. Still nothing. How many times do you follow up? I followed up a lot of times, but this guy had gone to ground. For some reason, he wasn't going to have us performing in his club. And maybe I just wasn't good enough. And that got to me for a little while. And then I decided to pick myself up and do some more research. I was back to square one. Needed to do some more research on the internet and fired off more inquiries. No responses, no responses. The place that eventually booked us was called Beco das Garrafas, Bottles Alley. And in the 1960s, this was the top place for bossa nova artists to perform. And I had never dared imagine that that's the place that would book us to perform. Well, went back to Rio for the show, and Anais brought a percussionist to perform with us. There was a team of 4 people who came from the south. When the team arrived, it started to feel very real. And on the day before the show, we rehearsed on the rooftop of the hotel, overlooking the sea. It was just a beautiful vista. And one of the songs that we played that morning was called Song of the Jet. It was by Jobim, and written by Jobim as his plane descended over the city. And as I sang, I realised finally we're here. It's going to happen. And I could actually see all the landmarks that I was singing about. How my heart is singing. I see Rio de Janeiro. My longing, lonely days are ending. Rio, my love, there by the sea. Rio, my love, waiting for me. See the cable cars that sway above the Bay of Guanabara. Tiny sailboats down below dance the samba as they go. Shining Rio, and there you lie, city of sand and sea and sky, mountains of green rising so high. 4 minutes more we'll be there at the airport of Galeon, Rio de Janeiro. There were tears streaming down my face and I was sobbing, but the musicians played on. Statue of the Saviour, with open arms above the yellow seashore, shook a loaf in majesty, climbing from the silver sea. Dark-eyed boys who smile at me. There were 2 of them. City of love and mysteries. Fasten seatbelts, no smoking, please. Now we're descending and everything's rushing, and now the wheels touch the ground. Well, the day of the show came, and when it came time for the sound check, we stepped onto the stage where my music idols had performed 50 years earlier. Astrid Gilberto, Sergio Mendes, Tom Jobim. And I whispered to Aeneas, Tom Jobim was here. And very quietly he said, yes, Tom was here. And we just had this little reverential pause. We played a 2-hour show that night, and it was truly a night to remember. And a couple of days after the show, before I left Rio, I took a last walk along Ipanema Beach with the sunshine making rainbows in the ocean mist. And I thought about something Aeneas had said to me. He said, you know, we're not here forever. One day we die, we disappear, there's nothing left of us. All that remains of us is what we've created. And he said, and that's why I write music. What are you creating in your business? Are you writing your own music? You know, without my heart surgery, if I hadn't nearly died, I would never even have set my goal. How often do we wait for a crisis to propel us? But equally, a crisis can be a catalyst for making change. And perhaps the current crisis can be a catalyst for you to think deeply about what you want to achieve in your business and set some goals to achieve that. And next time you catch a glimpse of what your business could become, even if it seems a bit audacious, don't dismiss it, because a glimmer can become a goal. And as I discovered, the secret sauce is commitment. Because without commitment, a goal is just a dream. Thank you.
Thank you.